So I have some very exciting news. The pre-made fursuit that I showed off in a previous video has actually sold! I ran my first ever auction as a fursuit maker. I hosted it on the Dealer's Den website, and it was definitely a new experience. I've never, well, ran an auction before. But maybe you'll see more in the future if I make more pre-mades. But speaking of making fursuits, Minecraft. I promise this will all be relevant in a moment, but if you've played even just a couple minutes of Minecraft, you know that it's all about improvements. Building a better base for you and the homies to live in. Building better tools to fight stronger enemies. And of course, upgrading your armor. It's a pretty well-known concept of upgrading your armor to protect yourself from the baddies, and actually becoming so powerful that people have labeled it God armor. This is where the correlation with fursuit making comes in. And after spending so many years researching and experimenting and improving my craft, I believe that I own a God fursuit. And hopefully by the end of this video, you'll know how to make your own God fursuit. Now, I actually found this fun chart online that shows how to make God armor in Minecraft. And I'm gonna be using this chart as a reference to go down the list and explain how everything relates to fursuit quality, starting off with materials. This graph shows that the best armor in the game is the netherite armor, because compared to other materials in the game like diamonds or iron, netherite will give you the best stats and armor quality. And if you want to build the best fursuit, your material quality matters too. As you can see, I am just covered in this gorgeous fur here. This fur also provides a very clean shave, as you can see on my face. I can throw it in the wash and it won't explode. It's just a great material. And if you're wondering, this fursuit here was made with luxury shag faux fur from Howl Fabric. Howl Fabric, among other suppliers that I'm gonna put on the screen here, are great suppliers for finding high quality fur. But it's not just the fur that matters. Let's talk about the head base. Now, I already made a video talking about why 3D printed fursuits are just so high quality. Specifically the material TPU. And the TLDR TPU, you can 3D print it. It's extremely durable, but it's also very flexible, like rubber. And these properties, among others, just make it superb for fursuit making. Of course, if you want to build a foam fursuit, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you are interested in learning more about TPU, you should go check out that video. So now let's talk about enchants. One of the advanced features of upgrading your Minecraft armor is enchanting it. And of course, this chart shows you the best enchantments you can get for your gear. Now, magic does not exist in the real world, unfortunately, but that does not mean we can't compare these enchantments to fursuit quality aspects. Things that we should be taking into consideration while we design our build. First, let's talk about respiration. It's kinda in the name what respiration is about. Even though it's a swimming enchantment, and I really doubt you're gonna go scuba diving in this thing, it does bring up the subject of breathability. Now, the great thing about wearing a 3D printed head as compared to a hand-carved head is that the inside is much more neatly hollowed out. I don't know why, but I don't know a lot of fursuit makers who hollow out their fursuit heads. It's just a big hunk of foam, and it's not very breathable. Back in the days of Costa 1.0, I'd have to pry the mouth open with my hands just so that I could breathe. And nowadays, I'm so comfortable wearing this thing, I don't even bother sticking a fan inside of it anymore. That's how breathable it is. Which, yes, I used to be a fan furry. You know, the kinds of furries with their, like, giant fans, and they have to, like, stick it in their mouth, and they walk around like this all day. That used to be me. And if you relate, that's how you can change it. Let's take a moment to talk about dyes. Now, a colorful aspect of Minecraft is picking flowers and turning them into different dyes, which means fun colored outfits. And while I really doubt that you're gonna be painting or dyeing your actual fur, it actually brings up the topic of visibility. Now, my eye mesh here that I'm looking at you from wasn't hand painted. It was made with dye. Dye sublimation is a long process, and maybe I should make a whole video about it, but the whole idea is using a heat press to transfer dye into this mesh, which compared to the traditional hand painting method, dye sublimation doesn't clog, my vision is completely clear, it doesn't wash out, period. I deep cleaned this head last night, and my eyes are fine. it doesn't wash out. It also just saves a lot of time and resources. Alright, with the fancy stuff out of the way, let's move on to the most obvious enchantments here, unbreaking. I use a heavy-duty sewing machine by Singer. A lot of fursuit makers seem to use the same machine as well. I rarely ever hand sew my stitches. I will try to use my sewing machine in every scenario because it just gives the highest quality stitches. And you can go back and forth as much as you want, reinforce it. I know some makers use I think it's called a serger, and that really reinforces the stitches, but I've personally never tried it. I've just gone back and forth with my Singer machine, and I've really never had any holes pop on this thing. And of course, I'm not gonna lie to you, I have seen the occasional seam pop here and there, but never anything major. My suit has never, like, ripped open. Now, a little disclaimer. Your fursuit should not be indestructible. You shouldn't go too crazy with the stitches, and you shouldn't go too crazy with the hot glue gun, because while fursuits should be built to last, they should also be made for maintenance and modifications. Even this head has had some maintenance done in the past, mainly the eyes. And while they held up over time, and I've never had a problem with them coming apart, when I knew it was time for an upgrade, it wasn't hard to take them out. I have had refurbishment projects sent my way. The client says, hey man, can you take off all the fur, strip its fur off, and replace it. Give it some brand new fur. I'm like, okay. So I start taking their head apart, but their fursuit maker has used so much hot glue that the head is just impossible to carefully dissect. I have to start using force and ripping things. And I'll be lucky if the head base even comes out in good quality. Of course, it's a rare example, and I did fix up the head, and it was super fun. But to put it in Minecraft terms, give your fursuit unbreaking, maybe don't give it mending. Leave it to the fursuit maker to stick it in the anvil. And finally, I'm going to be talking about, of course, protection. We've been comparing these fursuits to armor so much, so how are these things armored? Will I finally be able to take on a dragon? Ooh. And while I definitely wouldn't compare a fursuit to tactical gear or any of the sort, it doesn't mean there aren't protective traits. If it's super cold and windy outside, I know that I'm probably going to be a lot more protected than, say, my handler who's struggling to get their coat on. Even when the weather is just right, there's also a mental protection. Wearing fursuits is fun, and makes me want to have a lot of fun. And that's a trait that any fursuit can give you, whether you'd consider it a god fursuit or not. Having fun. So whether you're an amateur fursuit maker, a professional, or you just wanted to learn something today, let me know if you did. And send me your fursuit making progress on Instagram. I love hearing from you guys, and seeing you learn and improve. Sometimes makers DM me questions, and I'm always happy to answer. Should I make a video about dye sublimation? I don't know, but,